Okay, so we're now done aligning the gel. You may have drawn a couple more lines to align it, but basically we have a pretty happy and straight gel image. So the last step before quantifying the data is to assign bands. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Assign Bands. And here SAFA is going to ask me what the first band is that I want to assign at the bottom of the gel. Now I've looked at my gel before, and I've looked at the T1 digest, and I know that there's a G at position 134. So I'm going to assign that G first. That's at the bottom of the gel. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. So now I'm going to see my gel again, and I'm going to start assigning at the bottom of the gel. So I'm going to move my cursor to the bottom of the gel and right-click, and that zooms me in. And now I know that this G down here, you can see it from the T1 ladder digest right here, is at position 134. So I'm going to approximate its position down here with a left click. And I'm going to go ahead, and you can see that now SAFA draws a line and calls it G134. Now, if you remember correctly, we were doing this, we selected G's in the sequence selector, and so it tells me that the next position that I'm going to have to assign is position 141. So 135, 136, 137, 138, 139, 140, 141. And sure enough, right there, here, over here, and over here in my T1 ladder, I have another dark band, which indicates that there's a G. So I go ahead and click on that, and now SAFA fills in the rest, makes a guess for the other positions. If I'm not very happy, you notice that this position A140 is a little bit high. If I'm not very happy, I can mouse over it, click R for refine. It's going to delete it, and then move it down a little bit. You notice my gel isn't perfectly straight, but that's okay because SAFA is going to do a readjustment of this anyway. So let's go ahead and move this one down also a little bit, R, and move it down like this, and so forth. Okay? So that's the first step of the assignment procedure. I'm now going to zoom out, and I notice that my next position, in other words, the next click, has to be at position 147. So right-click to get it out, zoom in. You can see that around right here is 147. Right-click in, and then I can change the color contrast. And sure enough, if you look over here, there's there's a band here that corresponds to position 147. I can also count up here 141, 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, 147. You see that that corresponds. I'm going to click on that to establish a band. Again, I can refine these positions, mouse over, R, and notice everything shifts down. Mouse over, R, everything shifts down. I'm happy enough. As long as the approximate positions are good, SAFA will refine it. My next position is 148. Sure enough, if I darken it, there's a G right around 148, right here. 148. My next position is 149. My next position is 150. And now my next position is 158. Zoom out, change the contrast a little bit. I bet you it's this position right here. Zoom in with the right click, change the contrast. Sure enough, there's a band right here, and click, and it starts filling it out. You can see that as we move up the gel, SAFA is doing a better job of finding the positions because there's less spacing between the different bands. I'm still going to refine this a little bit, but in general, it's getting it right. You can see here, in fact, one of the protections coming in. My next position is 160, 158, 160. You can see that there's a band there. I'll change the contrast just a little bit in my T1 ladder. Boom, right there. And then my next two positions are 163 and 164. Change the contrast a little bit. You can see these are these dark bands. 163, 164. Zoom back out. And my next position is 169. I bet you it's these bands right here. Zoom in. Change the contrast a little. And at this stage, SAFA is doing a pretty good job now of guessing where the next positions are. You can see it gets better and better as we move up the gel. That's fine. 169. My next position is 174, which is this band up here. 69, 170, 171, 172, 173, 174. Up here. Boom. I'm getting the positions as we move along. My next position is 175, which is right here. Notice that there's usually a band there. My next position is 176. There's three bands in our T1 digest there. You can see them, 176. My next position is 180, 176, 178, 180 is up here. I click on that, zoom back out, zoom back in. And as I move up the gel, it's going to get harder and harder. In other words, the bands aren't going to be as well resolved, but nonetheless, I can definitely keep assigning these going up the gel. 181, my next position is 188. I'm going to start moving up the gel faster. You could refine these if you really wanted to. 191 looks like it's up here, and that makes sense. Perhaps not. There should be another band in here somewhere. Sorry, it's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I'm getting into 191, the less well-resolved parts of the gel, but I can still guess where some of these positions are. 192, 193, 194, and sure enough, there's a band there. 194. 195 is my next band. And then 200, which is probably this band up here. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I could potentially go up higher in the gel, but of course at this stage we're starting to get into the overlapping regions, and SAFA may not be able to do as good a job as at deconvoluting these peaks. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom back out, and you can see now that we've assigned most of the gel quite nicely. When I'm done, I'm going to hit Z. And now I'm done assigning bands.